Hello there, you're watching our television. This is State of Business. I am Pamutha Katagampala. In our top stories, Sri Lanka hosts forums of ministers and environmental authorities of Asia Pacific. Sri Lanka plans to increase renewable energy production, President says. Welcome back, you're watching State of Business. Now let's have a detailed look at the stories. The 5th Forum of Ministers and Environmental Authorities of Asia Pacific, organized by the United Nations Environment Programme, was held in Colombo earlier this month. The forum provided a platform for governments, intergovernmental organizations and other stakeholders to discuss and prioritize environmental issues in the Asia Pacific region. It aims to contribute to the outcome of the 6th session of the UN Environment Assembly taking place next year in Nairobi. Participants reviewed the progress of UNEA resolutions implementation in the region, as well as the progress made in regional forums and platforms where UNEP is the secretariat. Those include the Asia Pacific Clean Air Partnership, Asia Pacific Adaptation Network, Acid Deposition Monitoring Network in East Asia, and the Asia Pacific Regional Forum on Environment and Health.
Climate Justice Forum is the collective voice of climate vulnerable nations. Shall seek to redress inequitable distribution of environmental burdens to vulnerable groups and economically disadvantaged population and states, from landless farmers to all types of poor and marginalized communities. They all must have access to this finance. The mission of the proposed Biosphere Reserve Bank for the Global South will be to protect and restore the biosphere for future generations by mainstreaming and integrating climate finance with conventional finance on an urgent and hyper-accelerated basis, and promoting both macro and micro-scale climate-friendly investments.
We urge member states to act upon the Asia-Pacific Youth Environment Manifesto 2023, recognizing its significance in guiding our collective efforts towards a greener and more sustainable future. In conclusion, Asia-Pacic's children and youth pledge their unwavering commitment to be catalysts for a sustainable future. We urge governments, international organizations, and stakeholders to heed their voices, integrate their perspectives, and collaborate with the Children and Youth Major Group to build a resilient and thriving planet for both present and future generations.
It is an opportunity for Asia-Pacific region to speak with one voice about the most challenging environmental issues it is facing. This is vital for ensuring those concerns resonate on the global stage.
Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that Sri Lanka plans to reach 70% of its electricity generation through renewable sources in line with the Climate Prosperity Plan by the year 2030. The President said this during his address at the 5th Forum of Ministers and Environment Authorities of Asia Pacific in Colombo recently.
Humanity is facing an existential threat. The interlinked and cascading effects of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, the triple planetary crisis, are demanding a heavy toll on individuals, communities, and threatening life on our planet. Declines in nature and biodiversity at current trajectory will undermine the progress towards 35 out of 44 targets of the SDG related to poverty, hunger, health, weather, cities, climates, oceans, and land. In terms of change, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change estimates that global warming is likely to reach 1.5% centigrade between 2030 and 2052. Although Sri Lanka's emissions are globally negligible, amounting to merely 0.03%, we in our ambitious NDCs have set targets for 2030 to achieve a 14.5 reduction of GHG emissions, a 70% electricity generation through renewable sources, 32% of forest cover, weaning of coal power by 2042, the Net Zero 2050 roadmap for Sri Lanka will be launched at COP28. Sri Lanka is in the process of renewing National Biodiversity Strategic Action Plan 2016 to 22 to achieve the objectives of the Kunming-Montreal Global Diversity Framework.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe further said that the current situation of global monetary tightening is an ideal time to put a cap on lending rates of multilateral development banks and the IMF to reduce the burden on borrowing nations.
Numerous global fora have attempted to address the issue of climate change. The Bridgetown Initiative, Paris Pact for People and Planet, and numerous initiatives by the UN Secretary General. The issues and potential solutions have been well articulated at these events. What is missing is the money on the table, leadership and action. We need a climate justice forum to ensure that the countries least responsible for climate change do not bear a disproportionate share of the loss. We need to raise our collective voice and say, let's get done with this. The developed economies should be held accountable for meeting their net zero targets at least by 2040. If they fail to stay in line with these targets, such countries should be required to compensate the rest of the world. These funds can help with the financing requirements for climate mitigation, adaptation, and climate prosperity of developing nations. Additional volumes of concessionary financing at scale through the MDB is also a crucial requirement. Climate-related investments provide long-term returns which cannot be financed by fragmented, short-term, high-cost private financing. The prevailing situation where global monetary tightening is pushing up market-linked lending rates of MDBs and the IMF is also an opportune moment to consider options of capping such rates or other means to avoid further fiscal burdens on borrowing nations. The Vanuatu resolution has taken the issue of climate change before the International Court of Justice. This is the start of a process of recognizing climate justice as a human right. It is the core of the right to life. All other rights flow from the right to life. Countries unwilling to do their part to stop the climate crisis are guilty of committing genocide.
Stay tuned for more stories after this short commercial break.